My mom was an addict, and it created all kinds of different chaos in our life. There was no consistency. You weren't sure if she was going to be home, when she would be home, and really kind of created a life where I had to depend upon myself. I learned that I couldn't trust others, and that's kind of where it began. Life on the outside looked good. It looked like we had it together, right? And that it was a family secret. Nobody could know what I was going through, what my mom was doing, what we were experiencing as a family, right? And so within that, it created all kinds of different things within me as far as fear, as far as uncertainty. I mentioned chaos, but also too, lying and justification and different aspects that really kind of taught me what I thought life was about and what was okay to do and to behave. We met this family and they kind of introduced me to this concept of Christ, and they went to Bethlehem Lutheran, and we started going to church there, and I started to become more and more on fire and learning who Jesus is and his love and his grace. And that's when I accepted Christ is when I was 11 years old. I was baptized there, and really just on fire for him, and it was probably the most chaotic my life had ever been. Because as a child, right, if you're a child of an addict, your life is completely out of control, and you have no control over it, right? It's not your fault. It's nothing that you've done, and the worst part behind it is you can't do anything to change it. You're just along for the ride. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt out of control. I felt fear. I felt abandonment, and within it, Jesus kind of came in and started changing some things. Baseball was the love of my life, and it was what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a professional baseball player, and I transferred to a public school for higher level classification, but didn't know what I was getting myself into. The acceptance of others became extremely important to me, and it became what I was living for, was being approved by my peers, for them to like me, for them to think I was cool, for me to be invited places, to have friends, right? And a lot of these kids were making poor decisions. I mean, we're talking partying, drugs, alcohol, a lot of things that you shouldn't be partaking in, period, let alone at that age. And I let my faith go. I was not walking with Jesus, and I was really living, like I said, for the approval of others. And it really, I think at the time, was my escape. It was my outlet for all the pain and all of the anger that I had felt inside from my childhood, my upbringing of what I had experienced. And I was running from it, and I was escaping it through different ways, and also to in the acceptance of others. And it led me to making a lot of poor decisions. Thankfully, through all of that and all those mistakes and living for the wrong things, God continued to pursue me, right? I mean, he took me to Bethlehem, put this family in my life when I was 9 through baseball. And then as I get older and I fall away from him, he comes back and introduces CCU and Colorado Christian University. And they reach out and they say, hey, we're starting a baseball program. This will be the first year. We really would be interested in having you. Would you be willing to come? And I thought about it and, spoke with my mom, and she's like, I think you certainly need to be going to a Christian school at this point. And I think it's God calling you back home. And it was pretty cool. I was able to make tremendous relationships, have a really good baseball career, and it kind of changed the path that I was on, and rejuvenated a lot of different things. And the best thing that came from it was through mutual friends. I met my wife. A year after being married, things were going good. We had our first kid. Our daughter Zoe was born November of 2013, and was the love of both of our lives, and things were going pretty well. In 2014, I was hit by a car on foot. I was driving to work and got rear-ended, and while I was waiting for the cops to come, and a car ended up hitting me on foot. While I was waiting, fractured my skull in 2 places, cut me open, had a pretty good TBI, and was on my back for a couple months. And in return, I ended up losing my job. And a couple months later, The hardest thing at the time that I had experienced happened. My mom passed away unexpectedly. I think it was just the way her choice of living earlier on in the years of drugs and alcohol maybe caught up to her, but she passed away unexpectedly, and it was very, very challenging. I was very depressed, very dark, and I ran to things that were not healthy, and the vice that I chose was gambling, and it was sports betting. The gambling addiction that took a hold of me, it jeopardized not only my life, my marriage, and my family, and everything we owned. It continued to jeopardize different relationships in my life. It led me to having to experience rehab. It led me to places of being featured on HBO's Dangers of Sports Betting. It led me to different GA rooms, CR rooms, all kinds of different places that I never would have thought possible because of how addictive that choice was. God humbled me in a multitude of ways. And within that humbling came some awareness that He's so much more than what I can do for me. He can fill the gaps. He can fill the voids that I didn't get when I was a child. The lack of a present father, the lack of a present mother. You know, there was some painful things that I experienced, and abandonment and lack of trust within people is something I still battle with today. But the fact of the matter is the more I rely upon God and the less I rely upon me, the better my life goes. And I just sit here in total awe of this God we get to worship, right? Just who He is, and that just how this God created the whole universe. And He truly wants a relationship with me and with you. And it's astonishing, but it's true. I can tell you 100% it's true. And for me, in my life, what I've learned is I've got to focus upon Him. How I do that, what that looks like for me, is just being in the Word daily, right? Waking up, being in the Word, and surrendering my daily life to Him. That is me putting on the full armor of God. It's just saying, God, my life is yours. Help me to do what's best for you today. Relieve me of my desire for myself, right? And I chose to get baptized. Why did I choose to get baptized? I chose to get baptized because I wanted to give God the glory. I wanted to show people in my life that I was committing my life to Jesus, that I wasn't focused upon me anymore, that I wanted to give God the glory for what He is doing within me. God is transforming my life. I'm seeing it daily. I'm seeing it in who I'm becoming, how I'm treating others, how I'm being as a father, how I'm being as a husband. And that's what matters. Relationships matter. Other things don't matter, right? They come, they go. What's more important is who we have, not what we have. And I am blessed, and I am just in awe of God.